what I love about it is that it has gone past me as an artist. I don't feel like it's attached to me anymore. When you're singing Amazing Grace, no one's sitting there thinking, I'm singing a John Newton song, right? That's who wrote it. But you're not thinking, wow, I'm singing a John Newton song. Man, I love his music. No, you're not thinking that. This is just a song that's become the song of the church. And so I would just pray, maybe when I'm long gone from here, maybe there's a church that sings it somewhere, and they're not thinking I'm singing a Chris Tomlin song. They would not know who I am. But it just becomes that in the church. And that's what I've prayed for the most in songs, is that at the end of the day, what I'm most thankful for is when people come to me just today after that session, and when they say this, how these songs have, what they've meant in their church. I mean, there is no Grammy that can touch that. There is no radio #1 hit that can touch that. Is so lame compared to thinking that, man, in the church, some people in the church this is helping them worship God.
This is the Hillsong Creative Podcast, where we hear from creative experts, influencers, dreamers, and doers, what they've learned and what we can learn from their journey as we explore, respond, and create. We have a special episode for you today, an interview with the one and only Chris Tomlin, recorded live at Hillsong Conference just a few weeks ago. Let's jump straight into it.
I'm Cass Langton. I am the global worship pastor here at Hillsong Church, and it is my greatest honor to run this masterclass today. So I'm going to ask if you will stand to your feet and put your hands together and welcome to the platform the incredible Mr. Chris Tomlin. Woo!
Thank you.
Yes.
Whoa.
Hi.
Hello. I'm still emotionally spent.
You're still what?
I'm still emotionally spent.
He's still emotionally spent. How many of you were at our worship hour that we just had then? He did an incredible job, hey? It was spectacular. So take your seat, sit down. We can shift gears, Chris. I've got a book.
A book?
Check this out. Coffee with Cass and Chris.
A whole book of it?
Yeah, it's like a coffee table book you can take home with you at the end.
Oh my gosh.
It is like this is your life.
Is this the end of my ministry today?
No, this is only the beginning.
I feel like I've been set up. Okay.
This is the beginning.
Okay.
Hey, did you love that worship hour?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Okay.
I've been probably more intimidated by that than anything the last year.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I was just really insecure about
Because Brooke's on the front row?
Yeah.
And JD?
And JD.
He's a judge at JD.
You're right.
Yeah. JD is potentially the most positive person you will ever meet in your entire life.
Right.
That was the best worship he's ever been in.
Right.
He says it's about time we had a good worship leader at Hillsong Church. So do you want a job?
Yeah.
And we'll send him back to your place.
They would love it.
How did you learn to do that? This is not my question, but I spent my whole time on the front row going, you are masterful at, I prayed it, I think, but pulling back the mystery of God and letting people see his majesty. How? How do you do that? I'm like, right, Ian, I've got a whole lot of fun facts and other things, but I just want to know that, and then we'll go backwards. Is that okay? Does anybody else want to know how he does that?
I don't know. Gosh, this is going to be very disappointing to everybody in the room. Oh, man. People say, what's the key to leading worship? For me, it's always just been about humility. And I think the key of everything is just being humble. And I always try to humble myself before God. I pray every time, Lord, would you take any kind of pride away? I've got so much pride. And I just say, Lord, would you take any kind of pride in me that I don't even see? Because I think humility is the highway for God to work. It is like the path for God to work. When you're humble, then God's like, okay, I can do something. You are out of the way. And what I wanted to do in that hour is like go, wow, that guy's like me. I mean, he's no different than me. If God can use him, then he can use me. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, the stage does weird things. And spotlights do weird things. And lights do weird things. When you're on a stage, a lot of you are on stages at your churches, you're leading. And stages are strange. They just are. It's really strange when you're really thinking, man, I'm doing this, trying to do it for the Lord, And there's a stage, and stage are appropriate. I mean, you need a stage, right? You need a stage to speak to people. It's not wrong, but they can do weird things to you. And I remember my friend Louis, who I mentioned, and many of you have been impacted by him. I remember when he told me this. There's a couple things. He said, one is, Chris, he said, always just be the moon. He goes, just be the moon. He goes, the moon has no light of its own. The only time you ever see the moon is when it reflects the sun. He said, and if you can just do that, he goes, just be the moon. He goes, that's what you are as a worship leader. You are the moon. You have no light. If it's just off my light, that might last a session or it might last a weekend for somebody. But if you can just really, when you walk up there thinking, I'm just going to try to reflect God, whatever light's coming to me is coming. I just want to put it to God and reflect that to people. That was been so good. And I remember when I first made a record and I made my first album, and they did this thing called a photo shoot. And it was the most frightening thing ever. I still hate them to this day, but they take pictures, you're trying to make you look way cooler than you are. That's their whole objective. And I remember Louis I got a note in my Bible from him, and I still have it. And he said, Chris, today everybody's going to try to do this. They try to make you into something. He goes, I just want you to keep this in your heart. Always think of he must increase, you must decrease. He said, all day, when people are taking your picture, I just keep thinking, he must increase, you must decrease. He goes, because they can say anything they want on the outside, but you know what's going on the inside of you. And so I've always tried to keep that in my mind. And that's what I try to help people do. Today, in that hour, I was like, Lord, if I can do that, if people walk out of here going, wow, Lord, you are amazing. You can use anybody. And
I love that. I feel like that is beautiful. Okay, fun facts.
Okay, I like it.
Right. Were you born on the 4th of May, 1972?
Yes.
Ooh, okay, good.
May the 4th be with you.
All right.
That's my birthday. I was born on Star Wars Day.
All right. Did you, true or false, you went to the Nationals during university for comedy?
Yes, I did.
Shut up!
I did comedy speaking in college. I did.
Okay, I said to Chris out the back, everybody tells me that he's so funny and I've never seen it.
I never get to because you're a worship leader, you're just trying to help people to God. You can't, it's not really time to crack jokes, but I was I always loved making people laugh growing up. And so in college, the teachers we do these things where you go and you actually do competitions, and you could do competitions in comedy speaking. I was like, you can? I was like, man, I'm in. And so they were like, let's do this. And so I put together this whole little routine, and
can you remember it?
Some of it, and we're not going into it.
No. Just a little bit.
No. It's bad. I thought it was. Can you imagine? You are doing a comedy routine, and there is no audience but 4 judges, and you're supposed to be funny. And you're just looking at them, and they're just writing stuff down as you're thinking. And so I was doing this, and I made it. And I'm from a little town in Texas, never been anywhere. And I started winning all of the competitions. And I went to nationals in California. First time I've ever been to California. What I would do is I would make up songs I would have my guitar with me, and so I just had a massive advantage to all these other poor guys out there because they were up there with their doing their speech, and I had a guitar, and I would just make up country songs, and I would just make up these really, really random songs. And I'll never forget when I get in California, the judges are judging, and they're like, I'm doing country and all this kind of thing, and they're like, man, you have the accent down. It's spot on. And I'm like, bro, this is a real thing. And so because the Californians, they did not know how to handle Texans.
Okay, true or false, you've been married 20 years?
False.
Yes, good.
False. When's
your wedding anniversary?
August 11th.
No, it's not.
Oh, no, that's my wife's birthday. Oh, my God. Is this recorded?
Yes.
Jeez. November 9th is the anniversary. August 11th.
November 9th, which year?
2010.
Very good. How did you meet?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I get to Atlanta, I go to Atlanta, help plant this church, and I play tennis. I love playing tennis. And my second day there, it's like my first weekend there, and I'm playing tennis with somebody. He goes, hey man, you need to meet this girl. And I was like, okay, I just got to Atlanta. Sounds great. And he's like, no, seriously, her name's Lauren. She doesn't stay single long. I heard she's single. We need to get this done. And Did
you say she won't stay single long?
She doesn't stay single long.
She doesn't.
He goes this, and he said, we need to do this. We need to do this. And so I was like, well, okay. Well, I don't know who this is. And so, we set up a blind date. This is a blind date. And so I was like, well, I'm traveling this weekend, playing somewhere. When I get home, let's do a double date. And so we did. And I would love to say that was just amazing from there on out, but that's not how it went. And
why?
Oh gosh. Okay. This is Oprah. I didn't know this was Oprah. I thought we were talking about something else.
If she was here, we would have asked her.
Yeah. She would.
And she would tell.
So I was a normal guy and just couldn't figure it out. And I was really slow. And she's like, "Look, man," she goes, "we're wasting time here. Do you like me or not?" And I was like, and basically. Basically, and she's just so strong because I was just like, I'm not, I just got to Atlanta. I'm thinking, who will I get to meet? This is the first person I met, so I'm gonna keep my options open, which is horrible. This is horrible. This is horrible. But I'm just being honest. And it's being real. And it's horrible. And she's like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. And that's not me. I'm not into that. See ya. I was like, oh man. So I finally, it takes me a couple months to go, I just lost the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I knew it. I'm like, God, I am an idiot. And I'm pretty much an idiot most of my life when it comes to this department. When it comes to this department, this is one place I have never figured it out. And so finally I figured it out, but she was gone, right? And I just thought, man, if there's any way I could get her back. And so I get my speech together. And I know if I'm going in, it's got to be the thing where there's no playing around. It's not like dating. I got to be ready. So I have my speech together, and I call her, and she finally answers. She would never answer my calls. She would never take texts or anything. I would always send out these little texts, these little things, just to make sure we're still out there. Hey, I'm still here. Never responded. Well, one day she answers the phone. I called, answers the phone. She says, I said, hey, there's a lot of things I need to tell you. Can I come by your house and just talk to you? And she goes, phone's fine.
She's awesome.
She is. She's strong. She goes, the phone's fine. And I was like, okay. And so I poured my whole heart out on the phone. I just poured it all out. And she said, Chris, I'm over you. And she said, exactly. That's exactly what I feel. She goes, I'm over you. She said, I've moved on. I got this. I'm dating this other guy, and I think we're getting engaged and soon. And I said, okay, well, let me just come in a different way. And so I tried another way, and she was like, Chris, you're not hearing me. I am over you. She said that so much so that I said, Lauren, you have told me 5 times on the phone, you're over me. I don't really need to hear that again. And so I'm just...
That means she's not, obviously.
So anyway, fast forward, I think it's over, and then her parents had this ministry called Adventures of the Heart. And so I send this text out one day, just still trying to throw a line, I'm not giving up. I still throw a line, and I send out this text, and I said, hey, I hope everything is going well with Adventures of the Heart. I get a text right back, and she goes, how did you know? You are such a jerk. How did you know? That's what the text said. So I was like, how did I know what? I thought she sent, and she goes, we just broke up. And you sent me this about how's it going with your Adventures of the Heart. I'm not lying. She goes, you are such a jerk. I cannot believe you sent that. And I totally was meaning about her ministry. And she thought I was playing on words, and so I said, Jody, you know this. I was like, inside I was going, yes. Yes. And so I was like, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. You guys are broken up. Can we go out? And so ended up, and that's set us on the course to get married. I mean, I knew if we get back together, this is it. And sure enough, God is so good. Thankfully, man, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, by a million leagues. And so grateful that God just knocked me over the head quickly enough to figure it out.
So then, 2 girls.
I have 2 girls now, Ashlyn and Madison. They're 6 and 3, and it's just amazing.
One Grammy?
What's that?
1 Grammy? 23 doves?
You're moving fast.
2 Billboard Music Awards?
Yeah.
And now you're going to tell me about your life in 5 chapters.
What?
Ready? We're just shifting gear again.
Okay, gosh.
All right, now it's going to get serious.
Okay.
It's been fun.
Okay, it's been fun.
All right.
Oh, that's over. Got it.
Yeah, got it?
Got it.
All right. Tell me about the worst week of your life.
The worst week of my life?
Yeah.
Yeah, this might be happening right now. This has just started. I'll let you know at the end of the week.
A whole lot worse.
No,
right.
Gosh, the worst week of my life.
Nothing like sharing with 1,000 close friends, right?
Yeah, I mean, thinking through many bad weeks.
Want to start with the best week of your life?
Best week of my life. That's pretty easy. I would think when Ashlyn was born, and I've always heard that. You know, people were like, the greatest thing that happened to me was when my child was born. And I was single so long, and I didn't have any of that figured out, as you know now. And I would always think this way. People would say, "Man, the best thing ever happened to me is when a child was born," and I'd be like, inside, I'd be like, "You need to get a life." I was like, these people need to get a life. There's so much amazing things out there to do. Like having a kid, is that the best thing? And then when Ashlyn was born, and I was I remember just being on the floor. We had this, it was in the hospital, and you have this midwife there as well helping you. She wasn't helping Lauren. She's trying to resuscitate me. I am like on the ground. She's like, "Chris, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay." Lauren's fine. She's giving birth. Lauren's fine. "Chris, are you going to be all right?" Seriously, I was on the ground. I was bawling my eyes. I could not believe it. It was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, having my family. So yeah, that was amazing.
And 6 years later, is she still the greatest thing?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, I have 2 now. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just the best. And I only had brothers growing up.
Oh, okay.
There's only boys. And so now my house is only girls.
Sorry about that.
And I wake up in the morning, and seriously, it's princess dresses. It's I don't know who they're going to be. Is it going to be Belle or no? No, I'm Cinderella. And I would pray at night with Ashlyn, and I'd say, "Lord, I just pray for Ashlyn tonight," and she'd be Dorothy. I'd be like, "I'm just praying for Ashlyn." She'd say, "Dorothy." She wanted to be Dorothy that day, and she's from Wizard of Oz, and so I did not know, and so I was like, "Oh, Lord, yeah, bless Dorothy tonight," and she's like, "Thank you," and and that's my life, man. Every day, it's like we can't get them to wear any kind of clothes that are normal. It is like whatever Disney puts out. It's Elsa, it's Anna. They got Elsa and Anna thing going on. It's just like that around the house, and it's amazing. And so it's amazing. Having only brothers, being scared of girls, it's been unbelievable. It's been an unbelievable thing.
All right. What are you enjoying working on right now?
Oh, I started this little thing called Bowyer and Bow. And it's Bowyer and Bow. It's a little imprint music thing. It's not really a label, but it's just a partnership. And I thought, man, if I ever get a chance to find somebody that I really think is the next that I could really put my life into and say, "Hey, come along with me. You've got it. I see you, and you've got everything it takes. You just got just gifts from God. I want to help you." That's what I started. It's called Bowyer and Bow, which a bowyer, the bow, obviously we're talking about bow and arrows, and a bowyer is a bow maker, like a luthier is a guitar maker. So it's the Bowyer and Bow, and the byline is the maker and the instrument. And just talking about how, that's really, and I would say the songs are the arrow, the songs are the arrows out of the bow, right? We say that a lot, but that kind of encapsulate everything that I think about what this is about. we're the instrument of God, and so I have this project going that I'm more excited about my own music. I've been working on my new record right now. I think this is record 13 or 14. With this Bowyer and Bow thing, I've got this guy, Pat Barrett is his name, and he was the guy who was one of the writers of Good Good Father that I mentioned. And I just like, man, people need to hear your music, just what is coming out of you, because it is so special. And he's one of the most special guys I've ever been around. And so Lauren, my wife, she's like, man, you're more excited about his music than your own. And I was like, I am, and I love it. I love it. I just love just encouraging him, helping him, just in the direction of what's to come. And so I'm looking forward for people to hear that and see what he's going to do. He's a generation below me, younger than me, and I love that.
So how do you input into him? What does that look like? What does your relationship with him look like?
Well, I take him with me on tours, and he goes with me on when I'm traveling, and we're just together all the time and talking through what all this is. And he's done it for a long time, but never by himself. And so I'm always just trying to encourage him how to lead and what that looks like. And to encourage him to use his gifts. And then in songs, we're always getting together around songs, and I'm just kind of helping shape the songs. And he's an amazing guy. He doesn't need any help. He's ahead of me already in family and in marriage. I mean, I'm learning from him. But for me, it's just like, I feel like my role is to help people, to whatever crowd comes to my concerts, to point the finger and say, hey, here's the next guy coming along. You need to pay attention to this guy. He's going to lead the church in a great way. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
That's beautiful. Okay, what frightens you to think about?
Frightens me to think about? I think the thing that would frighten me the most is to do all these amazing things and get to travel and do all these amazing things and have all these great tours and all that, and yet not be a good husband or dad and lose my family. I think trying to figure out the balance of it, because I've always, like I said, been on my own most of my life, and I could just go and go and go. And now I got these two little ones looking at me, and I can't just go and go and go. And the most important thing is my family, right? And so what does it matter if you get all these things and you win all these awards, and then at the end of the day you lose that? And so I've realized this in an amazing way, that when I became a dad, that's the one thing in life you can never stop doing. You can stop doing everything in life. You can stop your marriage. Heaven forbid that never happen. But people do. I could stop playing, I could stop touring, but I'll never stop being their dad. I'll never. That's for life, and that's for until I'm in the grave. I'm their dad, and that is such a massive responsibility and a beautiful responsibility, and I love it. But it frightens me that that'd be the greatest fear of my life, to mess that up in some way.
All right. On the other hand, what inspires you the most at the moment?
What inspires me? Man, that's great. I love getting out on hikes. That's my thing right now. I'm so inspired by hiking in the mountains. That is my thing. We were trying to spend the summer in the mountains in the U.S. and I kept telling my wife, I just need more lunches in the trees. And that sounds weird. I've been so inspired. I'll get out and get a backpack with some food, and just go out, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and in the mountains can be by myself, and I just love it. I just love it. And I don't know why I'm so moved. I'm so wound up about mountains and just being out in the mountains and being in the rivers and all that. I just love it. So just last summer, I was sitting out I had this beautiful day. I took my backpack out, had my lunch out. I was sitting on this rock over this lake, and I'd hiked for about an hour and a half up to this place. And I was sitting back. It was sunny. I was just like, oh, this is great, Lord. I was just having my time. And I just happened to look behind me, and the sky is as black as I've ever seen it, and it is coming right over me. And I'm like, oh no, I've been walking for a couple hours. I'm about 2 hours away from the car, so I said, I got to get out of here. So I start going, and it starts. I'm by myself. It is thundering, lightning, hail starts coming where I can't get away from the hail. It's like golf balls, and I'm doing this, and it's just hitting my hands everywhere. It's like I'm just everywhere. It's just like I'm just getting pelted everywhere, and I'm just like, and I find this massive boulder, and this massive boulder that has this like cutout, and I just go and lay in this, and I keep thinking I'm there for 30 minutes while lightning is coming everywhere, and I'm just thinking, how did I get here? I was just like, that's what I was thinking. I'm just laying by myself. I'm like, I'm never going to see my family again. I'm like, I'm just laying under this rock. I'm thinking, if there are rattlesnakes around here, this is not going to go well. And just by myself. But that was like, I just love, I don't know what it is in me, but I get so inspired. So when you say that, I immediately think about that.
We'll get right back to the episode, brought to you by our Hillsong Worship and Creative Conference, which happens in Sydney, Australia every November. Come be a part of everything happening on site, like the exclusive collabs with practical training from our key Hillsong team. The conference has limited spaces, so if you can't make it to Sydney this year, why not join the online conference experience so you don't miss a moment of the main sessions? Find out more details at hillsong.com/WCC. Now, let's get back to the episode.
As creatives, we often get asked about our creative process. So, like, what does your creative process look like? How do you guys come up with albums? How do you do that? You just said you're working on your 13th album.
Yeah.
So, can you give us a little bit of an insight as to what your creative process looks like? Do you collaborate? Are you a lone ranger? How do you pull this together?
Yeah, for the longest time, for most of my life, I was by myself. I didn't know anybody. So I would write these songs, and I was writing songs alone. And then I started getting to meet people and get a relationship with people. And so I started collaborating. And I think the creative process for me is very much a collaborative process. And that's where I found the strength and the power of probably the last decade of my music has been very collaborative. And I love finding, even like I said with Good Father, I love finding a great song too. And that's a very creative thing for me. I'm always looking for a great song that I can champion in that way. But for me in songwriting, I have like a lot of people, my voice memos on my phone are just filled up with all kinds of things. Before voice memos, I used to leave a message to myself. I'd call my phone and I would leave a voicemail. I was like, "Hey Chris, this is Chris. And I would just sing this. I'd sing a thought into it so I could keep it and have it. But I have all these little thoughts and I come together. And for me, I've tried now with as so many people relate to this as you grow and you have a family and more things come. And so for me, it's about scheduling. And I heard somebody say this, and it said, if it's not on the calendar, it's not real. And I was like, wow, that's so true. You can just say, hey, I'm going to do this, but if you really put it down on your calendar, I calendar things out. I'm like, okay, next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure this is my time for this. So I try to be really structured that way.
With writing?
Yes. No, but like we're bringing my eyes. I have all my ideas that just come in random times.
Right.
But then sit down with them and work them out.
But you can do that like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday?
I don't, in the middle of the night, I'm no good. In the middle of the night, I'm no good. I like working during the day. Yes.
JD's wondering if you can come and teach our crew how to do that.
No, it's not like a 9 to 5 thing, but it's definitely, on this day, I'm going to work this out. Right. I'm going to sit, maybe I make an appointment with a friend, I bring in a song idea. But it's very important for me to have it on the schedule and not just say, let's do this sometime, but be very...
Do you have favorite people you like to write with?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
JD? No, we've never written a song together. Why? My first encounter with this guy named Ed Cash. He produces my music, and this is a great story. You guys will love this. So I hear some of the things he's producing, and I just love the way it sounds. And so I call Ed, and I was like, man, is there any chance that you'd produce some of my music to make it, sound good? I got these songs, but I don't really know how to make them sound good. Could you do that? And he's like, what kind of music do you do? And I was like, I do worship music. He said, nope. He goes, I don't like worship music. I was like, he goes, I think it's subpar to all music. And I was like, wow, God bless you. And it's like, and And I said, well, he goes, yeah, I sit in church and I'm thinking all these songs, they're just not that good. They're not that well written. And I'm like, wow, man, this guy's kind of bitter. And so I said, well, would you pray about it at least? Can I call you back? He said, yeah, you can call me back. So I called him back and he said, man, he said, it's funny. I called him back like 2 weeks. And he said, he woke up one morning and he was feeling that. And he said, I felt this little nudge from God. And he said, and I felt God speak to me saying, how dare you curse what I kiss? How dare you curse what I kiss? He said, and I got on my knees and I said, God, I'm so sorry. If there's any, I am so sorry for being so prideful. And so I bring it. So I call him. He said, man, I'm ready. God's dealt with me. I'm ready to help you. So I bring him a song, and my first song I bring him is How Great Is Our God. I have this record. I'm working on this record, but I bring him. I have the song. I have the chorus. How great is our God, and I have the verses, and I'm singing it for him. And I never forget. He's in a chair like this, and I'm like, so I've got these songs. I'm thinking this. He goes, he's sitting back. He goes, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like, I'm thinking it's okay. I'm thinking it's better than pretty good. And I'll never forget. His guitar is hanging on the wall right here above him, and he just grabs his guitar and he goes, as you were singing that, I just kept hearing something. He goes, I don't think the song's finished. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And now he's already telling me, your songs are okay, and let me show you how to make them better. And I was like, wow. And he grabs the guitar, and right on the spot, he's like, what about, you're the name above all names? I'm like, okay. Keep going. And he said, you are worthy of our praise. And then he said, I don't know what the rest of it could go, but what if it did something like that? And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? And so from that moment, most of my songs have been written with him, and he has produced most of my music. And I've loved that relationship that has started, and so many songs have come. So I love writing with Ed. I love a lot of the early days of songwriting to me, when I started finally having relationships with people, was with Matt Redman. We wrote a lot together, and so it's great. But Ed's been the anchor, I think, in some of my songwriting.
Do you have a song that you're most proud of?
Wow. I would say, it sounds weird, but I would say that one, How Great Is Our God, because I don't feel like it's one of the best written songs ever. It's very simple. The chords don't change. It just goes to the thing. The melody's easy. But what I love about it is that it has gone past me as an artist. I don't feel like it's attached to me anymore. And I would pray, that would be the most amazing thing. I pray that. I would say, God, if there's any way I could have songs that just find their way into the church and they're not attached to me, I feel like that may be the one song in my life that does that. That what I mean by that is, when you're singing Amazing Grace, no one's sitting there thinking, I'm singing a John Newton song, right? That's who wrote it. But you're not thinking, wow, I'm singing a John Newton song. Man, I love his music. No, you're not thinking that. This is just a song that's become the song of the church. And so I would just pray, man, if that's what I feel like, that maybe that song has done, that maybe when I'm long gone from here, maybe there's a church that sings it somewhere, and they're not thinking I'm singing a Chris Tomlin song. They would not know who I am. But it just becomes that in the church. And it's just crazy how that song it seems to have crossed generations, in that a 13-year-old would like singing it, and an 80-year-old would like singing it. That's only a miracle of God, right? That you could have generations that enjoy the same thing, singing the same thing. And so that would be what I'm most grateful for in that. And that's what I've prayed for the most in songs, is that at the end of the day, what I'm most thankful for is when people come to me just today after that session, talking to probably 20, 30 people, and when they say this, how these songs have, what they've meant in their church. I mean, there is no Grammy that can touch that. There is no radio #1 hit that can touch that. Is so lame compared to thinking that, man, in the church, some people in the church this is helping them worship God. And I pray for that. I always pray. You ask me the creative process. It's really simple for me too. I pray and say, God, would your presence touch these songs? I said, because I think about when when God called Moses, and he said, if your presence doesn't go with me, then I don't want to go. And I kept thinking, okay, he said, for what will distinguish me among all the people of the earth? And I started thinking, what will distinguish my songs from every other song out there? The presence. If your presence would touch it, I've not invented new chords. I don't have new instruments that no one knows about. I've not, there's not new notes out there. We're all using the same notes, but when the presence of God touches it, then maybe that distinguishes it among. It's a difference maker. And so it's simple. So I pray for that. And I've written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs, and maybe just a few of them would have that.
Do you ever get surprised at how God uses the songs?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you get letters from people who tell you about where songs have landed and what they've done?
Oh, yeah.
And is there a story that stands out in your mind?
I think it's usually meeting people afterwards, and there's two stories in my mind. That one is this kid who has to wear. He said he was probably 10, 11. And it was after a concert, and his parents brought him back, and he said, "Hey, he had all these problems, and he has to wear this. He has to go in this machine every week that does all this scanning and all these radiation things, and he has to wear this metal. He's 10 years old. He has to wear this metal mask that they strap down his face. You can just barely breathe through. Can you imagine being 10? And they put you in this little tube, and he has all these things. And his dad says, "We just want you to know that before every treatment, he plays Angel Armies, God of Angel Armies, as loud as we can play." He goes, the doctor turns it up as loud as he can play it. He goes, and that's like his strength going into that. And you think, how do I get to do that?
I might cry now.
But that's serious. How do I get to be a part of that? And on a lighter note, I was last tour. I was really sick. I traveled all day, and I was throwing up everywhere. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do the concert tonight. I was sick as a dog. And I come off, and they're like, "Hey," I said, "I can't do really meet and greets with people because I can't touch. If I touch them, everybody's gonna get sick. I can't touch people." And they said, "Well, there's this one kid who came a long ways, and you need to meet him." And sure enough, they bring him in, and he's in this wheelchair, and he can't move. And they had told me, they'd asked me, "Is there any songs you want to not do tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely not going to do God's Great Dance Floor tonight, because if I do that, I'm going to throw up on everybody in the place, because I can't just stand there and sing that song. We're going for it." And I said, "I can't do it tonight." They're like, "Okay, yeah, don't do that one." I talked to this kid, and I meet this kid, and he can't move. He's like a paraplegic kid, sweet kid. And we're talking, and I'll never forget. And I was like, I said, "What do you want it to be?" And he can't really talk, but he can just do this thing, and his parents can understand him. So he would say this thing to his parents, and he said he had a guitar on his lap. He said, "I want to be a worship leader." And I was like, "You do?" And I was like, "Well, buddy, you already are. And you don't have to play this guitar to be a worship leader. You already are." And I was trying to encourage him. I said, "What's the one song you want to hear tonight?" And he said, and his parents said, and they said, "God's Great Dance Floor" is his favorite song. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm just like, and seriously, I'm throwing up. I go back to my bus, I'm throwing up. I'm like, how am I going to do this? I was like, I can't not play this song. And so at the end of this concert, the concert ends, and I was like, I came back out, and I was like, okay, guys, I wasn't going to do this song, but I met this kid, and I said, I want his dad to hold him up. His dad picked him up out of the wheelchair and just kind of held him up. I was like, this kid, he wants to be a worship leader. He's had more difficulties than probably anybody that will ever in this place will ever go through. He already is a worship leader. He's led me tonight. And I said, we're going to do it for him. I said, for everybody sitting right here, would you please leave? Because I don't know what's about to happen. But we're going for it. And it was such a beautiful moment to see, just to see how songs can bring so much joy to people. So much joy in there. Like, here's a kid, right, who has never been able to move. And his favorite song is God's Great Dance Floor. And just what's going on in his spirit, right? What's going on inside of him that is beautiful.
I love that. I love stories so much. I love what God is doing.
Yeah.
Okay, Rapid fire.
Woo!
10 in 10.
10 and 10.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got to be quick. What are you listening to at the moment? You can say Young and Free if you want to.
Yes. Oh, well, I have.
Jokes. What are you listening to at the moment?
I've been listening to this podcast. Yeah.
What sort of podcast?
Podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like what?
So it's called. It's called. So Tell Me About Your Father, and it's a podcast from this Hall of Fame country songwriter in Texas. In Nashville, that he interviews all these great songwriters. And he said, I think the greatest question you can ask anybody and to know about them is, so tell me about your father. And so he asked them, these people who've written all these great songs. And so it's just really interesting about music and creative process. And he finally gets to, so tell me about your father. Like he's introducing, like he's talking to people like Johnny Cash's son. And so it's really interesting. So I've been listening to that. So tell me about your father.
That's cool. What are you reading?
Right now I'm reading a book called Extreme Ownership: How to Lead Like a Navy SEAL. And it's like... No, is he reading that book?
Phil Dooley actually
is he
tells everybody to read it.
Phil Dooley's a Navy SEAL?
Yes, he is.
No, it's...
But we can start a rumor.
I'm reading that, but the best book I've read over the last year is called The Wright Brothers.
Yep.
And it's about all they persevered to make man fly, powered flight. And you're reading it on an airplane. You're like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And it's an incredible book, what these guys did.
And scaring yourself to death.
Yes.
If you weren't doing this for vacation, what would you do?
Oh, man. I don't know if you guys have this over here. Have you ever heard this show Fixer Upper, like Chip and Joanna? Chip. I want to be
Love
Chip.
them with my whole heart.
Like, that's probably what I want to do. I'd probably want to... I love houses and like trying to make houses better. The thing is, I would need a team to do it because I'm a musician. I can't do anything like that. I can't like a... Yes. So I would like to do...
Have you met them?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes.
How did you meet them?
Well, we're Texans. We're both Texans.
So it's like Tasmania, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Come on.
All right. Okay. They say that one of your favourite verses is Numbers 14:24. Is that true?
That's one of them.
Do you know what that says?
Is that about the Caleb and the land? Yes. I was like, okay, is that
It says, but because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went into, and his descendants will inherit it.
Yes. And
why does it matter to you?
That verse is so interesting, right? It's like in the middle of the, like why would that be one of your favorite verses?
Yeah.
But it says because this is when they sent them into... to go into the land, and everybody came back, all the 12, and 10 of them came back and said, we're not going there. These guys will destroy us. And then the verse says, it talks about Joshua and Caleb saying, no, God told us we can go. And it says, and because Caleb had a different spirit, he will inherit the land. And I've always thought, man, I would love to put my name in there. I would try to substitute. I would love for it to, if it was written about me, but because Chris has a different spirit, he doesn't just go with what everybody else goes with. He's going to go with what God said. He's not going to go like, oh no, we can't do this. He's not going to live in fear, but like because he has a different spirit, he will inherit the land. And I've always tried to like go after that. I've always wanted to be like that. I wouldn't want to be like the 10. Like I feel like most of us would be, and I might be in times. No, that's too hard. Man, I want to be that to be said of me, a different spirit.
Is there a moment where you've had to practice that? Where you've had to go against what everybody else wants to do?
Oh yeah. There's been several times. I think I'm. Even recently, I've been pushed. You get pushed into like, what is success, and what is, especially in music. Well, keep going this way, or you need to change your sound. You've been doing this for a long time. You got to do something new, and you got to be different. And no one wants that anymore. I get those things said to me, and I just.
What do you do with that?
Well, I actually called our whole team together. From the record label and everybody. And I've never done this before, but I just said, hey, I just want to rally everybody together and just talk to you for a minute and just explain that I I didn't get to this position by strategy, by trying to be something, trying to be what the culture is doing. I said, I just want people to worship God. And I said, I'm going to continue making music, continue writing music, the best I know how, the people can worship God. And it may not be the latest pop, coolest thing, but that's not what I'm after. And it was, I have an amazing team, but sometimes you have to know why you do it. Sometimes you have to know why you do it. And I heard that recently. It says everybody knows how to do it and what they're doing, but few people know why they're doing it. And I know how to lead worship. I know what to do, and you may know how to do it, what you're doing. You may know what you're doing, but do you really remember why you're doing it? And I think if you know why you're doing it, you can't fail. And I think people are like, they're so scared of failing, and they're like, yeah, but if we don't keep up with this, it's not gonna be. And I was like, if I'm doing what I feel, that different spirit, if I'm doing like what I feel God's put in my heart, I cannot fail. I cannot fail. It may not look right to the world, but I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And so that is just been very recent.
What's your why? Why do you do it?
To give people a voice to worship God. That's always been my why. I want to give people a voice to worship God. And how can I do that? How is the best way I can do that? How can I simply write a song that anybody can grab their guitar, sit behind a piano and sit at a church, and they play it, and they can sing it to God. And that's what started with me, and that's why. And it's as simple as that.
How hard is it to keep it that simple?
It is so hard.
Right.
It is so hard to keep it that simple because you feel the pressure of whatever you've done before to do better or do more, and then you hit the moment of like, you know what? The same Holy Spirit that did all this is the same Holy Spirit that's in you now. That doesn't change, and just follow Him and quit trying. And that's what I was trying to say today when I worship. I'm speaking to myself, man. It's not about striving. It's about resting in God, resting in God and what He's put in you. And so that's what I try to stay on. I lose that. I'm a human being, and I don't get it all right. But when I come back to that, man, it's such a place of peace. It's such a place of just, this is what I was made to do, and this is what God has gifted me to do.
The one thing you know about God that grounds you?
Gosh, that is an incredible question. The first thing that comes to my mind is grace. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, because everybody talks about, the world really talks about karma. That's what the world thinks. And I love how God is so upside down and so different with grace. Karma, is like whatever you do is going to come back at you. And grace just turns that on its face and says, it doesn't matter what you've done. God loves you. And it's just goodness coming in. And that is like, I've always thought, I just hear that so much. And I was like, man, if people could understand the grace, the power of the grace of God, it's the greatest force. There's no greater force in the world. But if you get really understand the grace of God, then man, it'll make you want to run around this tent 20 times. Just like, thank you, Lord. I heard this, I can't remember his name. He's an ancient pillar of the church, theologian. And he said this. He said, if the only prayer we ever say is thank you, it will be enough. And I was like, that's what I feel when I think about the grace of God. I mean, that's what worship is, right? You're just saying thank you. I mean, there's all different ways of saying thank you. And I said, if the only thing you ever say to God is thank you, it will be enough. And that's so beautiful.
How did Jesus find you?
I grew up in the church, thankfully in a church with family and with my family. And the first time I remember just really getting a hold of me, I was on the front row in my little town, there was this gospel group that came through to play. And it's like this gospel music. And then my dad just loved music. So he's like, there's a concert tonight at the church. Let's go. And so I sat at the front row and I was just, I honestly remember making a paper airplane and trying to hit the guy while he was singing in the legs. And and at the end of the thing, I remember he said, would anybody like to receive Jesus tonight? And it was, all I can say is I can still remember it to this day. I was 9 years old. It was like my whole body was on fire. And I remember running back to my parents. They were sitting in the back. And I said, Mom and Dad, I want to receive Jesus. I ran to the front and I prayed. And that was the first like awakening moment. And then the most amazing thing, a few years later, I'm at this worship thing. I'm in my youth group. I'm at this worship thing. It was probably about this size. And they were singing all these worship songs. And I didn't grow up in a church that did that as much. We sing, 3 hymns. You had the preaching, and then you watched the Dallas Cowboys. That was like my whole life, okay? And so and I'm in this thing, and people are just worshiping God. And I was so moved. I ran, it was in the night, and I ran out the back of the place, and I found this tree. Like there's trees out there, and it was in the middle of the night, and I found this tree, and I knelt under the tree. And I think, from what I heard, counselors were running everywhere, whereas we've lost one. Chris is gone. Can you imagine how you're going to tell his parents? And I said, Lord, I feel like you're speaking to me. I don't know what you're saying. And I said that. I don't know what you're saying. And I think that's beautiful, right? You can just be honest. You don't have to say, oh, yes, you're saying this. I was like, Lord, I don't know what you're saying, but I know you're speaking to me. And I just want you to know that for the rest of my life, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I said, I wasn't like, I want to be a singer. It wasn't this prayer of, Lord, I really want to write songs. If I could write How Great Is Our God someday, that'd be amazing. It wasn't that. I just said, God, whatever you want for the rest of my life, that's what I want to do. And, it was amazing how God never let me forget that moment. And as I got older, I went to college. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I was trying to get in pre-med. I was doing all these things, trying to do all these different things, trying to be a comedy speaker. And never let me forget that prayer. I'd always go back to that moment. Do you remember that, Chris? You said wherever, whatever. And I think that's the essence of that's everything that God's looking for. And the scripture says his eyes move to and fro that he may find, and they stop on whose heart is completely his. He's looking for those whose heart is completely his, whose heart is available. That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for talent. He's looking for availability. Somebody who is just available to say, Lord, here I am. I don't know where I'm going. You surely do. And I'm going. And so that was the biggest awakening moment in my life. After receiving Jesus, having the Spirit in me, and looking back now, I know that was a calling. I didn't know it. I'm too young to know this is a calling of God. I didn't know it. I didn't know terms like that. And now I look and it's like, man, God was really calling me out, and kind of like that. It's you. I'm calling you out right now. And yeah, but I could take you to that tree. Even right now, where I can remember where it is.
So we've actually run out of time, but I actually think that's a perfect place to end. I don't know about you, but I feel like I want you to pray that prayer over us.
I'd love to.
I want to pray that surrender.
I'd love to. Jesus, Father, look over your children, your sons and your daughters. And I pray right now that they would know that more than any label that they may feel has ever been put on them. They would know first that they're your son and your daughter. They would receive, even right now, the love of a father. And I pray for my friends, Lord, who they're feeling that, maybe that fire inside of them, even now, feeling that call of the Spirit of God, feeling that whisper of the Spirit of God. And so, Lord, I pray for my friends for just the faith to take a step, to move, to just walk, and the faith to say to you, God, I don't really know everything you're saying, but here I am. here I am, Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'm yours. Lord, that's the prayer you're looking for. That's the prayer above all things you're looking for, just whatever you want me to do. So I pray for that even now, maybe some of us in here for the very first time would say that. Lord, whatever you want me to do. I have no idea where that leads, but I'm available. I'm open. I'm yours, completely, 100%, wholeheartedly yours. Lord, I pray just a great blessing. Pray your favor, your hand to rest on them, and as just like Moses, let your presence be with them as they go, that they be marked by your presence for what will make the difference. What will be the distinguishing mark on these people's lives? Lord, be your presence. When people come in contact with them, they would sense something is different here, and it's your presence, Lord. So let that be the marking moment, the marking thing that is on our lives. I thank you, God, for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
We hope you enjoyed that interview and pray that you're inspired and challenged in your own creativity. Next up is this week's story for the Psalms of Ascent. You can find out more at hillsong.com/WCC and join with us in the 100-day creative challenge.
So when I was young, I think I was about 2 years old, I was riding like my little tricycle or bike that you ride when you're that age, and my mum was putting the washing on the washing line, and I was riding around and having a great time, and then all of a sudden, as she had her back turned, I had ridden my bike into the swimming pool. And so I guess, I was drowning. She pulled me out. I was blue in the face, and she, got the water out of my lungs and all that. And for her, that was a real moment where God came through. But yet for me, I only know of that story because she told me the story, not because I remember it. In Psalm 124, Israel is encouraged to tell of the times when God came through. And there's this one verse where it talks about the waters engulfing them. And it talks about if God hadn't have come through, then say so. But if he had, the inference is, if he had, then remember that, talk about that. And so my encouragement would be to people to look back and see all of those miraculous times that even you don't remember, but you know God came through. He's there, we just have to remember it. Well, that's it for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do that on iTunes, YouTube, or SoundCloud. And I'd encourage you to do that so you can be a part of the journey with us. We'd love to hear from you too. So if you want to give us your comments, do that on our Instagram. It's @HillsongWCC. And we'll see you next time.